Just 3 years ago, I would have been virtually unrecognizable. I looked the same, I talked the same, but something did change. It was a small change, a change that would bring a profound impact on my life. It brought me new friends, increased my confidence, and my attitude towards life would take a complete 180. But it's not like I wasn't doing okay before. But actually, I would say I was doing pretty alright. I was cruising through my classes, okay at the violin, and I had a couple of friends. I was satisfied with how things were. Yeah, there might be an announcement for a new club, conference, or class, but me, I didn't really listen. I just didn't really care. I didn't want to take the risk of getting rejected. I didn't want to stop watching Netflix to fill out an application. I didn't want to be laughed at for trying at something I was interested in. No way. Life was going just fine, so why even bother? But there was one problem. I wasn't comfortable enough. As I entered high school, I felt an immense amount of pressure on my shoulders. I would hear, colleges are looking for leaders. Colleges are looking for people who challenge themselves. Colleges want well-rounded people. It was getting into my head and made me shudder every time I heard anything like that. Why? Because I didn't do a single one of those things. I was stuck on my own comfortable island, doing my best to stay miles away from any risk I could possibly encounter. On the other hand, everyone else seemed to be way ahead of me. That guy over there, he was a national rock climbing champion. Her, she did kung fu and was president of the math club. The guy next to me in history, he took 5 AP classes and was applying to UC Berkeley. But me? Not me. I was so confused. Why did all these people spend the time, put in the effort to do all these things? Why did they even try when there's such a high chance of failing? Everywhere I looked, the world seemed to be sprinting ahead of me, while I was still learning to crawl with an Xbox controller in my hand. So I realized I needed to try something new, something risky. I decided to raise my hand, to step up to opportunities instead of running away, to conquer my fear of failure and make an effort to better myself instead of being content with passable, adequate, good enough. I actually began to listen to those announcements. If there was an application available, I would take one. And every time I did, I knew there would be some sort of risk involved. I may not make it, they may not accept me, I may not perform as well as everyone else. But even so, this time I would not let even that stop me, because I would find that even just trying would bring benefits better than if I did nothing at all. An example of this took place in my school's JRTC program, which develops future leaders. I was like any other first year. Follow orders, try to have a decent looking uniform, and most importantly, not get yelled at. But then one day they announced, Flight Sergeant applications are out. Who's interested? I was immediately hooked. If I was chosen, I would now be the one to critique their uniforms. I would now be the one to fix the cadets. And most of all, I would no longer be a follower, but instead a leader. But the problem was the part if I was chosen. I would have to take a nerve-wracking interview, fill out a long application, and compete against many others who also wanted the position. At first, I went back to my old mindset. Why even try when I'm just one person among so many other people? I had enough things on my plate, and I definitely didn't want to add failure to that list. But wait a second. I had nothing to lose, right? If I don't make it, who cares? But no, because in my heart, it was much more complicated than that. Because in reality, I was scared. Scared that after all that work and commitment, it might turn out for nothing. But there's one thing a little bit bigger than that fear inside of me. Fear was not in control of me. I had passion. Passion to do what I want and not my fear dictated. So with fingers crossed, I applied. 3 weeks later, I was flooded by people patting me on the back. I got the job. That's right. Me, out of all those people, became a flight sergeant. But what if I never applied? What if I let my fear consume me? Let the risk overtake me? Let my laziness constrict me? I would have missed out on so much growth. Growth as a leader, growth in being responsible, and working with other people, which continues to help me to this day. There were also times when I had the desire to do more, I just needed the opportunity. I've always been very passionate about music, but I never really put that desire into action. Though I didn't really enjoy playing the violin, it just seemed easier to stick with what I knew. Later, I learned that my orchestra was in desperate need of cello players. But did I really hate violin enough to dedicate years of time and effort into learning a new instrument? But no, wait a second, I'm sorry. Wrong question, an old question. Now it's become, was I willing to step up to this opportunity that could possibly bring something amazing? Was I brave enough to open myself and make an effort to at least try? 3 years later, and I'm still playing the cello and I never get tired of it. It calms me when I'm stressed. It teaches me dedication. And as I improve, it inspires me to reach even greater heights. But the opportunity didn't stop there. Learning the cello gave me the opportunity to teach in a program called Amaze. As one of the members in this program, I get to teach kids with autism how to play the cello. Every week I come in to teach them a little bit more about music, but return home having learned even more from them instead. Being a part of Amaze has taught me compassion and patience in a world where there's way too little of both. Had I not stepped up to learning the cello, I not only would have missed out on the joy the instrument brings to me, but on becoming an even better person through Amaze. Now, there's also another person you may have heard who also found great benefit through raising his hand. At age 16, Richard Branson was a high school dropout, a squatter in London, and dirt poor. Years later, he would build up the multi-billion-dollar corporation Virgin Group, controlling over 500 companies around the world. So how did this broke teenager become such a successful businessman? Branson says, if someone offers you an amazing opportunity, say yes, then learn how to do it later. Using this mindset, he would go on to say yes to artists no one else would sign, then say yes to an airline, a company he's never tried before, and now here he stands with a net worth of over $4.2 billion. But to get to where he is now, he would have to face some failures and even some challenges. In 1994, Branson tried a soda company that initially seemed promising, but due to its lack of customers, it collapsed. In 2000, he tried Virgin Cars, an online automobile business, but it shut down due to its poor performance. Branson learned even when you give it your all, sometimes your attempts don't work out as hoped. Even so, he learned from his mistakes and became a successful entrepreneur in the end. I would also face difficulties of my own, and I may not have become a multi-billionaire, but the growth I would gain would be priceless. A couple months ago, I applied for the Science and Engineering Apprenticeship Program. You get to work in a lab with top-class equipment, learn from the professionals, and have an experience unlike the usual science class. Things were going very well for me with Flight Sergeant, cello, and other successes, so excitedly I decided to apply. I spent hours compiling a resume, writing multiple essays, and getting teachers to write a recommendation so that I could get into this internship. 4 months later, the admissions committee completed reviewing over 3,000 applicants, and a selected few were chosen. But unfortunately, I was not among them. After all that time and effort, I didn't make it. But this would not be the only time. I tried out for the tennis team. I didn't make it. I applied for the Leatherneck essay competition, but I didn't make it. I tried out for honor orchestra, but I didn't make it. Every letter telling me that I was turned down, every failure knocked me down lower and lower and lower. No wonder people don't raise their hand. It's brutal, it's crushing. Rejections often felt like a challenge to my own self-worth. It was almost unbearable. I even began to question, was it even worth it to step up, try hard, only to fail in the end? After all, I wasn't doing all that badly before when I just ignored the opportunity. That way, I never have to face failure, and not wanting that feeling is something that everyone can understand. Even so, here I am today, committed more than ever to tackle those opportunities. Those rejections, yes, they were tough sometimes, but they've made me stronger and even more determined to try harder. I wasn't accepted into that internship, but using the skills I learned how to make a solid resume and compelling admissions essays, skills that landed me a place in Cosmos, a highly competitive STEM summer program. It was one of the most valuable and memorable experiences of my life. I wasn't accepted into honor orchestra that time, but after learning from my mistakes, I practiced, refined my skills, and was accepted the following year. So every time I stepped up, whether I won or lost, whether I succeeded or failed, I do not regret a single one. I count them all as gain, as growth, and even as a gift. So now take a moment to stop and think. Think of a time when you didn't raise your hand. Maybe there's a class you really wanted to take, but fear made you put it aside. Maybe there's a club you really wanted to join, but you're afraid others might make fun of you. Maybe you saw an interesting summer program online, but out of laziness, you missed the window. By saying no, you're giving up much more than just a small opportunity. You're giving up all the experiences that opportunity opens up. You're saying no to best friends, jobs, and memories that will last a lifetime. You're digging yourself deeper into a life of mediocrity, nowhere near your real potential. So I stand here asking the question, why? Why? Why do you let yourself sink deeper into the abyss of fear and idleness? The opportunity is right there above you. All you have to do is raise your hand and go for it. By saying yes, you're putting in the commitment and drive to do what you want, despite the possibility of failure, criticism, and difficulty. So I challenge the world to be sick and tired of the old, and with hand held high, welcome what life has to offer.